all they take, so I have to divide it up. I've got a highly paid person here, for instance, doing this, but we don't want to go into those details, but I did hire him also. So if you could send me some money next week, because I got to pay her and then I got to pay him.
Don't mention my wages in front of my wife.
Okay, so that's is there any comments or questions regarding that? Yes.
I get two of them. They tell me all the time.
What, 2 emails?
One for him and one for his wife.
I don't know why. I'll check that.
Yeah.
I'll check that. We'll do that. But all you have to do is hit delete.
Oh, I know that. That's the easiest button on there.
Anything else? Any other comments or questions on it? And one of the most important things, I don't have it up there. Right down at the very bottom is comments. Or if I send you an email where it says update people, I really would like to have any comments that you would have. Any comments that you would like to make on it. I would really appreciate. I really would. So if you have any ideas that needs to be done or something, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm sure having a ball at it. I really am. So.
I think you do, because my grandson was amazed that we had someone this technical in our Sunday school class.
Well, anyway,
So church.
anybody, any comments that you have, why I would really, really appreciate that.
I have one.
Okay.
Our thanks for all the work that you do in doing this. It's been a great service.
I wasn't going for that, so I do appreciate it.
But I appreciate it too because it keeps him a little bit out of mischief. So thank you.
Keeps him off the street.
Gets him out of honeydews.
All right. Well, if you've got your books in front of you, well, here we go. And I want to start on that. Before we start on that, I'd like to read from The Prophet by Gibran. Then said a teacher, "Speak to us of teaching." And he said, "No man can reveal to you aught but what that which already lies half asleep in the dawning of your knowledge. The teacher who walks in the shadow of the temple among his followers gives not of his wisdom, but rather of his faith and of his lovingness. If he is indeed wise, he does not bid you to enter the house of his wisdom, but rather leads you to the threshold of your own mind. The astronomer may speak to you of his understanding of space, but he cannot give you his understanding. The musician may sing to you of the rhythm which is in all space, but he cannot give you the ear which arrests the rhythm, nor the voice that echoes it. And he who is versed in the science of numbers can tell you the regions of weight and measure, but he cannot conduct you thither. For the vision of one man lends not its wings to another man. And even as each one of you stands alone in God's knowledge, so must each one of you be alone in the knowledge of God and his understanding of the earth." That is from Gibran, the prophet. And I laughed about that. I was thinking about this the other morning. Of course, when I was teaching psychology, it was quite obvious I was a communist. But this was one of my required readings in one of my in my psychology class. And there's another reason for it, because if you turn to the part dealing with children, it's very, to me, it was very profound. But anyway, so it's called The Prophet by Gibran. And I want to do this right now. I'm moving towards the lesson, I promise. But I would like to have my wife, she did a term paper on symbolism, and I'd like for her to read her paper right now.
And the problem of digging down and finding things that you didn't know still existed. And were several things, and this one seemed to work well. All churches use symbolism, even those with somewhat austere sanctuaries, clothing, and/or lifestyles are sending strong symbolic messages. Protestant churches tend to use fewer architectural or physical symbol than the Roman Catholic or Orthodox churches, but there are still many things related to the worship and worship space that tend to communicate truth on an intuitive level. Having spent a significant amount of time worshiping and/or playing in churches of different denominations, I would like to speak briefly of the symbolism that has been a meaningful part of my learning and my faith journey. The first time I played for a service at a Jewish synagogue, the moment when the curtains were drawn back and the large, ornately dressed Torah was taken out, uncovered, and unrolled for reading, was very moving. It felt as though I had stepped into the Old Testament, which of course, in some ways I had. Each Friday night, following the service of worship, the congregation gathered in the fellowship hall. Before sharing the goodies that had been provided for the evening, there was a blessing over the bread and the wine. The Jewish belief that the material can affect the spiritual is central to our sacraments. Many symbolic things in this faith of our fathers were very meaningful and enlightening to a Christian. During the time that I played at an Episcopal church, I came to value the symbolism inherent in kneeling both for prayers and for communion, and standing as the gospel was read. The ritual congregational responses, so similar to a mass, became an important means of feeling an integral part of the service. In the Presbyterian Church, the bread and the cup are served to those seated in the pews, but served only by those who have been ordained to the office of ruling elder. So the blessing of the elements by ordained clergy, then their distribution to the congregation by ordained elders, made clear the sacramental nature of the elements. The church that I attended when I was a child visiting my grandparents had no instrumental music in the church, sang only psalms, not hymns, and did not believe in voting in local, state, or national elections. It is difficult for me to read the 150th Psalm and justify the theology of no instrumental music. It is difficult to remember the directive of render unto Caesar and understand the theology of not voting. A Baptist church where I played for several months would have accepted me as a member without rebaptism by immersion, or would not have by rebaptism as immersion, though I was allowed to participate in communion. One church I have attended has the baptismal font placed far beyond the pulpit and communion table, making it difficult for a baptism to be other than a private family event. Another has placed the font in the rear of the sanctuary, and the congregation remains standing and facing that way during the baptism. Other churches have no stationary font, but bring a bowl to the front of the sanctuary. I have worshipped or played in buildings where the choir was center front facing the congregation,